going on, everybody? Anthony Wade here, and so good to be with you again. One of the things that we deal with when climbing to the next level, when pursuing opportunities, when really trying to do things bigger than our current circumstances, we face this thing called imposter syndrome. Now, this is really an insecurity that we have about ourselves that allows us to play small. It really prevents us from pursuing that next level or that thing that's more for us in our life, whether it's our relationships, whether it's our health, whether it's our wealth, whether it's our business or our profession. And I'll tell you, this is one of the biggest problems that many people face when looking to do better. They have an idea or a thought that maybe their life could be a little bit better than what it is. And then they get to going and taking action. And what happens is they become paralyzed by fear. You might see this as paralysis by analysis. And really, it's not analyzing anything. It's thinking about the fear. Maybe you're analyzing all the things that could go wrong instead of what could go right. Like, what could happen if my life does change, if I do get that promotion, if I do talk to that person and meet the level of my life. What could happen if I take action and mitigate this fear? And so what I want to talk to you today is, how do you mitigate fear, but also how do you kill your insecurities? How do you kill this imposter and put this imposter syndrome away? Because if you do not, you will risk continuing to play small and continuing to just take what life gives you instead of going after what's yours. You and I weren't called to play small, to be mediocre. We were called to step into our calling and greatness and help serve other people. But you can't do that if you're playing the game of life at a lower level than your potential. And so one of the things that I'll tell you is that I've had trouble with this for a long time. And this imposter syndrome is something that paralyzed me for many years. You see, when I came into the military in 2004, I changed my situation from going from homeless to now joining the military. And I thought that if I just changed my environment and change the uniform, put the uniform on, that things were going to change. And let me tell you, it wasn't nothing like Batman putting on his cape or Superman putting on his outfit. I had to do a lot of changing from the inside out. And so what happened was, in 2004, we graduated our A school, right? So in Navy, you go to boot camp and then you go to A school, which is a basic entry level school to get the job that you signed up for. And upon graduation, some friends and some classmates of mine all went out for drinks, and they're like, "Hey, come with us. We're going to go grab some drinks to celebrate. We just graduated." And it was cool, but the only problem was I was underage. And so they bought me one of those margaritas with a little Corona on top, and I drank it, and we got dinner and came back to base. Well, the guy that was driving got breathalyzed and got a DUI. So they automatically breathalyzed everybody, including me. Now, I was in the backseat minding my own business. I had my seatbelt on. Everything was good. The only problem was I was underage. And so when I blew in the breathalyzer machine, it registered that there was alcohol in my system. And so there I was standing before the man, getting in trouble for underage drinking. Now, that right there really set the course for this imposter syndrome. Because you see, I'd go to my next command and there was opportunities after opportunities. I used it as a chip on my shoulder. And when that happened, I had a lot of people tell me, in my leadership, tell me that, you're a piece of crap. You screwed up your career. You're never going to promote. You're never going to progress. You're lucky we don't kick you out, and all these things, right? These negative things. And the problem is that I believed what they were telling me, all those things they told me that I was a piece of crap, worthless. You're never going to promote. You just screwed up your career. I had this flawed self-image just from a past of adversity. I mean, going from living, being homeless to join the military. Now I thought to myself, man, my mom was right. I'm just like my father. I can't get my shit together. And so that became my identity. And so as they were telling me all the things that, I believed it, because the proof was I screwed up and I keep screwing up, and I carried that with me to my first command. And I remember my LPO coming to me and saying, we have an opportunity for you to go to the Naval Academy and you meet all the requirements, you're motivated, you're young. And I told him, like, I don't want to do that. That's not for me. Reality was, I was afraid that if they uh, signed me up for it, that they do my background and find that I got in trouble in A school. And so what I wanted to do was just kind of fly under the radar and not let anybody find out about my problems. So I missed an opportunity. And I look back on that now and everything worked out. But of course, in that moment, I thought to myself, man, there's no way somebody like me is going to be able to go to the Naval Academy. Nobody like me is going to be a naval officer. Nobody like me is going to be able to. And so I limited uh, my growth because I was afraid to take opportunities, because I was afraid to be found out. And that is the quintessential um, imposter syndrome symptom is, I don't want to be found out. What if they find me out? What if they find out that I'm a fraud, that I'm just, yeah, I'm motivated, but I'm not qualified. And so for the next few years, I would make rank really fast. I would go from E4, E5 to E6, and it was pretty quick. I was passing my peers. I was getting promoted with some of my leadership. And the whole time I had this little voice in my head that kept saying, you're not good enough, you shouldn't be here, you're lucky, or it was just luck or chance that you got this, and so be grateful for what you have. And I thought to myself, wow, like, everybody was telling me how great I was and how good I'm doing and how fast I'm on the fast track. And I saw myself as, man, there's nothing special about me. There's nothing, that I did that was significant. I just worked hard. And now I look back and realize, dude, I did a lot of stuff, man. I went out, I went after it. I used that adversity to my advantage. But it wasn't until I got over this imposter syndrome that I really started to flourish and started to lead by example. And today, what I want to tell you is how to kill these insecurities. We all have them. And here's the thing about the imposter syndrome and these thinking patterns that we have. Thoughts are energy; they never go away. So our only hope to get rid of this is to redirect those thoughts from negative to a positive. And we do this by changing our perspective, and most importantly, our view of how we see ourselves. When we change the way we look at things, the things we look at begin to change, including ourselves. And sometimes that flawed self-image will allow you to get validated by somebody who tells you, who do you think you are? Or you're not good enough, or you think you're better than everybody, or whatever the case may be. You see, my problem was when people told me what I wasn't, I believed it because there wasn't no proof in my life. And so I want to give you 4 things that are going to help you kill this imposter that lies inside of all of us. Now, when I say kill it, I'm not saying you're going to get rid of it, but you're able to hear that voice, you're able to understand that it doesn't serve you, and you're able to redirect it into a positive or use it as fuel for your advantage, right? So number 1, you got to get clear on a vision for your life. Now, I know this sounds hocus pocus, and I know you're probably thinking, okay, Anthony, I've heard this before, but here's the deal. When we have a vision for where we're going, then we can set goals that are going to be the checkpoints to make sure that we're on this path. Most people don't have a vision for their life. Their vision is for the yesterday or the past, hurts, beliefs, and things that happened before. The people that are talking about the good old days are living in the past of they woulda, shoulda, coulda. I want you to start thinking about the future. As kids, we have an imagination, and I see my 2 boys are 7 and 6. And they're able to play imaginary soldiers. They're imagining that the stick is a sword or whatever the case may be. You and I have that ability to imagine things in our future. Imagine what your life would look like if you made more money. Imagine what your marriage would look like if you just invested more time and energy and effort. What would your relationship with your kids look like if you just imagine what it would look like if you spent more time teaching and learning from them. And so we can use this imagination to look at what could happen in the future, the good things. But how many of you imagine what could go wrong? You have a picture in your mind of how things are going to be screwed up and what happens if it doesn't work. Well, what happens if it does? And so this vision allows you to get a clear destination of where do you want to go. And now you set these goals, you reverse engineer it to the now, you set the goals that are checkpoints along the way that says, yes, I'm getting to where I want to go. It's not going to happen over time, but it will happen. It's not going to happen overnight, but it will happen over time. And now that you have a vision for your life and you have some goals, now you set the core values, and your core values are these are the boundaries in which you set for your life. This is what you will and will not tolerate. In life, we don't get what we want, we get what we tolerate. And whenever you set core values for your life and you live by those, these are the principles and standards in which you stand upon. This is your standard of operation. This is how you operate. These are the standards that you have for your life. And when you set standards, people start treating you a little differently. And that allows you to train people how to treat you. Most people, are a doormat for others, and they just come and, yeah, you got a minute? Yeah, of course. Yeah. And they can't say no because they're people pleasing. That's another symptom of imposter syndrome. You're always trying to please the next person. And for me, that was exhausting because I was trying to be everything to everybody. And I was trying to, maybe if I help this person and help that person, then I can get validated and I can seek validation and I can get approval. And then people will love me, blah, 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 blah. Maybe somebody will tell me they're proud of me. And here's the thing. Nobody's ever going to be proud of you unless you're proud of you. I never was able to get that validation. And we have to stop seeking external validation for an internal problem. And that internal problem is this imposter syndrome. And so whenever you break free from this, no longer are you trying to please other people. Now you can lead other people. Because if you're too busy pleasing people, you can never lead people effectively. And so I want you to start thinking about this, because this imposter syndrome, it shows up in every area of our life. And whenever we're looking around saying, I'm paralysis by analysis or perfectionist, that's another symptom, right? Being a perfectionist, everything has to be right before I get started, or if I can't do it right the first time, I'm not going to do it at all. You have to understand that imposter will beat you every single time. And so you have to get clear on your vision, your purpose, your goals, and your core values, because that's whenever you set a standard for yourself and you start operating by those standards, then your life begins to change. Okay. Number 2, you got to build proof through daily action. Repetition equals results. And when we look at imposter syndrome is the inability to believe that one's success is deserved or has been legitimately achieved as a result of one's own effort or skills. It's a belief that we're stuck with. And these negative beliefs, also known as imposter syndromes, are given to us at a young age. They're given to us by society or by friends or by our social circle. And if you grew up like me in kind of poverty, you didn't believe much, right? I mean, there wasn't much to believe in because there was no proof. And so how do we build belief? By building proof. And proof is built daily through your actions. You build the proof, and now you start to believe different. You believe different, you behave different. Belief drives behavior. And whenever you see yourself behaving in a manner that's not congruent with that vision, right, that's your North Star, then you can say, okay, if I'm not behaving in this manner, then what is the belief around this? Is it serving me or is it stopping me? And when you can identify those beliefs that are stopping you, chances are you can tie it back to a childhood friend or a family member that told you you weren't this, or you can't do this, or you'll never have this, or there'll never be enough. Or if you're like me, money doesn't grow on trees. We don't have enough food to eat. Poverty is your baseline. And that might have been true, but it's not my truth. Yeah, we didn't have hot water some days. We didn't have enough food some days. We didn't have electricity a couple of days. We had to move when the rent was due because we didn't have the money. But that doesn't mean that's my truth. That doesn't mean that's who I have to be when I grow up. So instead of repeating the process, I changed the cycle. And that started with my belief. I had to change the belief about myself. I had to change the belief around money. I had to change the belief about my self-image and my worth and my value. And the only way you can change your value is by having core values. And when you have core values and you operate from them, you increase your value because you're starting to value people. And when you value others, it's a direct reflection of the value that you see in yourself. Most people don't value others because they don't value themselves. And as we look at people, it's a reflection of how we see ourselves. So when we hate somebody, chances are we hate something inside of them that reminds them of something inside of us. And so I want you to get very clear on that, because our life is a big projector screen. It shows us our weaknesses. It shows us our strengths. It shows us our flaws. It shows us our possibilities and our potential. But if we are not geared in the right thinking to find it, to see it, then we will never, ever get the opportunity. We'll miss it every time. And so you got to build proof to daily action. Remember this, action mitigates all fear. Whenever you're afraid to do something, that means you should go do it, because you prove to yourself that it's not that bad. I've gotten to a point in my life, and I want you to get there too, is that, when I find something that's kind of frightful, or that, I don't know if I can do it, or I have a little voice that says, I don't know if you can, I don't think you should, I go do it. I double down and go get it done, just to prove to myself that I can do it. The Ironman, I did it last month. I was afraid to swim, especially in the ocean and cold water. Like, that's something I've never done before. And had a fear around it. When I went in the water, I couldn't even breathe. Like, I was all screwed up. And so what I had to do was I had to fall in love with the process and say, you know what? I might not be able to do it now, but I can do it. I can learn and I can grow and I can, through repetition, I can get the results. And I did really well. And now I proved it to myself that it is possible. And now with that proof, guess what? It changes my belief. And that belief drives my behavior. And now I look forward to going swimming. I look forward to, getting in the pool. I look forward to doing another Ironman. But at one point in my life, that was a big fear for me. So what is it that you're afraid of? And how can you start building proof by taking action and going after it? And yeah, you might fail, but that's okay. At least you tried. Because if you don't try, then you live with regret. And the pain of regret is always greater than the pain of pushing through. I'll say that again. The pain of regret is always greater than the pain of pushing through. So get it done. Endure the suck until you get the result. And guess what? The suck goes away. Suck less, success. But not everybody's willing to suck first. They want to be perfect. They want to chase, be a perfectionist, or then they get, paralysis by analysis. And then they start pleasing people. And it's just a big vicious cycle that we fall into. And it's all based around imposter syndrome. The next one is evaluate and eliminate. You have to constantly evaluate the negative thoughts, the negative beliefs, the negative behaviors and habits that you have. And then you have to ask yourself, does this serve me or does this stop me? And if it stops you, you got to eliminate it. And it's a constant daily battle between your ears, the 6 inches between your ears. And every day you got to go to battle between your ears. And you got to win that battle by constantly evaluating and eliminating. And remember, you can't defeat what you can't define. And so by becoming aware of those thoughts, those beliefs, those habits, you're able to identify where they're keeping you stuck. Now, on top of that, the evaluate and eliminate goes with the people in your life. If you're hanging around chickens, you're never going to soar with the eagles. And so we have to constantly evaluate and eliminate people in our life. People that relationship might have served you for a reason, for a season, but it never was intended to be there for a lifetime. And so you have to understand that people come in our life for a reason, for a season, and for a lifetime. And if you're hanging around people that were, from the past, they're still talking about the good old days and they're still stuck in their bullshit, and you're allowing them to drag you around in this thing called life, then you're going to set yourself up for failure. So you have to constantly evaluate and eliminate the people that you surround yourself with. These are engines and anchors. Engines will help you take off and push you forward. Anchors drag you down and keep you stuck. And if we don't evaluate and eliminate, we're going to be carrying people through this life, this baggage that's going to prevent us from taking off. And so this imposter syndrome, you have to start surrounding yourself with people who don't agree with your BS, right? Your belief system. They challenge that belief system. They push you into your greatness. The last one is feed your faith and starve your fear. We have two options when it comes to taking action. We can feed our faith and take action, bold faith, and step into our greatness, or we can let fear paralyze us and stay stuck right where we're at. And if you're standing still, chances are you're falling behind. We live in a world that's ever changing, ever evolving. And if you're not moving forward, you're falling behind. And one of the things that we have to remember is that thoughts are energy. And that fear, if it's left, unnoticed or uninterrogated, you have to interrogate that fear and see where it's coming from. If you let it be, it will be the weeds in your garden that chokes out all the fruit in your life. You'll play small. You'll never, step up and step into leadership. You'll always be mitigated by fear, and you'll always sit back and take what life hands you. That's not what you're called to do. You're called to go after and get what you came for. And I'll tell you that fear is one of the biggest drivers in a good way and in a negative way. And like I told you, the trick here is to look at what you're afraid of, things that you're afraid of. If you're afraid of public speaking, if you're afraid of, swimming, if you're afraid of talking to people or talking to the opposite sex, and, you're trying to get a date, go do it. Step out in faith and starve your fear, because the more action you take, the less the fear becomes. You see that fear, when it's left to manifest in our brain, we make it bigger than what it needs to be. It's like the boogeyman under the bed. It's not a real thing, but yet when we were kids, what would we do? We believed it, and so we behaved as such, and we'd be scared, and we'd sit under the blankets and be afraid of the dark. And really, in reality, there's nothing there. Same thing goes in our life. We'll go, get into public speaking, the first time I spoke on stage was in front of 10 people. And for 2 minutes, I was supposed to talk about Mike Tyson. And I got in front of the people and I started sweating. I got really nervous and started shaking. And I started stuttering. And I put my cards down and I ran out of the room. I left my bags and everything in there. And the teacher felt so bad that she came out with my backpack and said, "Mr. Waite, I'm not going to give you a failure. I'm going to give you a withdrawal. And I expect for you to come back and do this class again. I never did. I was so afraid of it. I said, I'll never do that again. I'll never get in front of people and talk. And now I'm here, speaking to thousands of people all over the world. Why? Because I fed my faith and starved my fear. I started taking action. I started stepping on stage. And yeah, I might have sucked the first couple of times, but as I got good, I realized that it's not that bad. There's nothing to be afraid of. Nobody is going to, cut my head off. Nobody's going to hurt me. Now, they might criticize or judge me, but that's on them, not me. And here's the thing. If you're afraid of criticism, you will never be criticized by somebody who's doing better than you. I've never seen it. Because a real leader, a real person, a real friend, a real individual who's trying to help you will only encourage you, and they will give you feedback. No judgment, just feedback. And so the ones that do criticize you, great. That's how you know those are the anchors that you need to cut out of your life. Evaluate and eliminate, right? And so these are 4 ways that you can start killing your insecurities and getting rid of this imposter syndrome. I hope this served you guys. I'll see you on the next show.